Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Bake Like a Vegan Pro, episode 3. This episode, we are interviewing the amazing Meggan Leal. How are you, Meggan? Meggans,
Hi.
sorry.
It's okay. Either way works.
How are you going?
I'm going great. How are you doing?
I'm
Going,
awesome.
doing. We're on opposite sides of the pond, so either one.
Yes, thank you so much for tuning in. And thank you to everyone that's here live today that's going to ask us lots of questions. We can't wait to get stuck into it. But I just want to tell you a little bit about Meggan before we get started. I'm just going to read her bio really quickly so you can hear a little bit about her and her backstory. So Meggan is a stay-at-home mum. She's a vegan baker and an amazing food blogger. She jumped head first into baking with literally no experience when her 2 daughters were diagnosed with multiple food allergies, including dairy and eggs. And she's currently living in South Texas, where she runs her own Cooking on Caffeine blog, which is an amazing, amazing, very popular vegan blog. You have to go check it out. I'll put all the links to her blog on my website. And it features loads of vegan, allergy-friendly recipes. Sorry, guys, my dogs are running around crazy because it's very bad weather here at the moment. And it also includes recipes for her popular macarons, which is awesome. So definitely go check that out. And just to let you guys know how today is going to run. So first up, we're going to talk about Meggan's journey into vegan baking and her own personal experiences with that. Then we're going to get her to talk about all her top tips for macarons, because she is the macaron queen at the moment. And she runs her own Facebook group, which I'm sure many of you here are already in that group. And then we're just going to open it up and everyone can ask any questions they want to get some top tips from her. And then we're going to talk about Meggan and what she's doing in the future with her recipe book and her blog and her YouTube channel. And then, yep, that's what we're going to talk about for the next hour. So, Meggan, hello.
Hello.
That was a very quick intro. So let's get started. Why don't you tell everybody about what's been happening with your journey towards veganism and how you got there, and share some stories with us.
Yeah, you covered most of it, but to elaborate and elongate it, as I am known to do, my daughters are 6 and almost 4 years old. And when my daughter, my oldest one, her name is Arya, when she was born, we had a lot of issues with her. I couldn't quite figure them out until we got her to an allergist and did some testing and found out that she was allergic to eggs, milk, and blueberries, of all things, blueberries.
Oh, right.
Favorite
that
food.
sucks.
Yeah, I mean, like the most toddler baby friendly food on the planet. You're like, here, eat some antioxidants and I don't have to worry about it. But no, she was allergic to them. But yeah, so eggs and milk, and that's when I started reading a lot of ingredient labels and checking out the foods that we were actually eating. And I was preparing for her, and I realized that like 99% of everything had eggs and or dairy in it. Even so much as the non-dairy creamer, that we were using in our coffee. And like, it says it's not dairy, but the top ingredient in here is milk. Like, how does this even work?
Yep.
That's a long story into my my learned distrust of the food industry as a whole. That's
Yep.
a whole other tangent. But yeah, so learning that that's in everything, and I couldn't trust foods that I had always trusted before. I learned how to basically make everything from scratch without eggs or milk. And that led me, to the first birthday and to even other kids' birthdays, or I was just like, well, my kid's not going to be able to eat anything but like carrot sticks and celery, like that I take her. And I didn't think that was fair. So I taught myself from the ground up how to make cakes and cookies and all of that fun stuff, egg and dairy free. And it led me to a lot of vegan groups on Facebook, including yours. So learning from the vegan community how to make things without, eggs and milk, which had been a part of my life, my entire life, and having that support net there to catch me as I was crying night after night. Like, what am I going to feed my kids? What are we going to eat as a family? Like, how is this even going to work? And with everything that the vegan community taught me, I was able to transform it and then start to teach other people too. And that's what brought me into it.
Yeah, I mean, you're one of our top people in the group. You have so many fans. You're constantly interacting and giving so much advice. It's just been incredible what you've been able to share, and the knowledge that you've acquired has really helped out so many people, which has just been amazing. But I think the one thing that you're known... Oh, did I just lose my camera?
I see you.
Oh, okay. It's just gone from my screen. I can't see myself. I don't know what's happened, but we'll just continue. So I think what you're really well known for is macarons, and you have your own vegan Facebook group that's showing people how to make eggless macarons, which is just booming at the moment. You've almost hit 1,000 members in a very short space of time. So it just shows how popular it is and the amazing advice you're sharing with people, which we all know. So let's get into talking about macarons, because that's where your speciality is at the moment. And can you share with us your top tips?
Absolutely. Yeah. So my top tip for vegan macarons would be definitely to join the Vegan Mac group. And it's on Facebook. It's called Vegan Mac Attack. And not just because, I want you in the group and I want to be popular and stuff. That's not it at all. But we have, like you said, almost 1,000 members now in the group. And what that means is it doesn't matter where you are in the world, what time zone you're in, when you're making them. If you need help, there's 1,000 people group ready there to help you troubleshoot, to help you get started, to help you build up the courage to even reduce some aquafaba to make your macarons, because that, I would say, that's the biggest hurdle in the whole process, is just like doing it the first time. Because they're very intimidating. Macarons are jerks. They don't play nice. And I promise that your fear of failure is well justified when you're walking into doing macarons. But knowing that you have a team of 1,000 people that are there to support you and to help you through all of the troubleshooting and figuring out, why did they crack? Why did they explode? Why are they traveling on the tray? Why did I get puddles? Why do I have crackers, delicious crackers, but they're not macarons? All the 1,000,001 ways that macarons can break your heart. There are going to be people there that can help you figure it out. So that's my number one tip.
Yeah, that's an awesome tip.
Join a vegan macaron community. And there's a really great macaron group on Facebook too. All Things Macarons, I believe, or Everything. I think it's All Things Macarons. If you search for it, there's like 30,000 people in that group.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's a great resource as well. But egg macarons don't play the same way that aquafaba macarons do. And I find a lot of people jumping into the vegan macaron world, they go to conventional egg macaron troubleshooting sites to try and figure out what's going wrong with their recipe, with how they're baking them, with whatever. And I promise you that those troubleshooting tips are not going to help you when you're doing the aquafaba ones, because aquafaba and egg whites they play completely different games. And sure, people who make egg macs, like, they struggle too, but they struggle completely different ways than we do over on the vegan side. So finding that vegan mac community, becoming a part of it, and also giving as you receive. I really feel like that gives you some good vibes, not to get too woo-woo. But if people help you, you should help them. And I really feel like that at least boosts your energy when you are trying to do it yourself. You feel a lot more confident. And I highly recommend becoming a part of the community. So
awesome.
I told you I'm really long-winded. So there's my one top tip.
What would you say? I'm just going to shoot a few questions at you, and everyone out there, if you have some questions about macarons, make sure you start typing now. Let's talk about what brand of chickpeas you recommend using, and can you use other things other than chickpeas, and any advice on preparing your equipment?
Yeah. If you go to my recipe, I actually outline all of the brands and all of the types and everything, like as if you're there in my kitchen and looking at what I am using, because macarons are so fickle that if you change brands, you might have to change your baking time. If you change the pan type that you're using, you're going to have to adjust your oven temperature. If you use parchment versus a silicone mat versus a Teflon mat, you're going to have to adjust temperature and baking time. Sometimes if you use a different brand of gel color in your macarons, you won't get the same results. So on the recipe, which is like 52 pages long, I I know.
You're really selling it.
Yeah. That's macarons though. They're so finicky and so fickle that even
Yep.
one variable that's changed just a little bit, you're going to have to change a bunch of other areas of it to try and get the same result. So yeah, in my post, I put all of the equipment that I use, the brands I use, et cetera, et cetera. So if you're watching this video and you're like, oh no, I need to take notes, I want to, do the same thing. Don't worry about taking notes. Just go look at the recipe, and I promise it's in there and it's outlined. But I use great value organic garbanzo beans for my aquafaba. The reason I do that is not that I feel that they're like far superior. It's not even for the organic aspect of it, which is great. But it has a pop top.
It's all the small things, right?
Yes, it has a pop top. I have arthritis, so when I'm making like 200 macarons and I'm sitting there with a can opener trying to open that many
Yep.
cans of chickpeas, it's not a fun time for me. So once I found out that they had the pop tops, and all I do is give it a little shake to distribute the proteins and the starches, and then pop it, and I pour it out. And so that's the brand that I use, and that's why. I have used all different kinds of store brands. I have used boxed chickpeas that I found once at the dollar store, and it worked perfectly fine. The ones in the Tetra Pak.
Oh, yep.
The only things I haven't tried are the powdered aquafaba, which I want to do that, but I have this weird anxiety about ordering things online. So I'm like, every time I get there and I'm about ready to click like order, then I'm
Oh, you
afraid
totally
something.
should. I've used their products. They're really great.
Yeah.
They sponsored our very first bake club
Oh
a
yeah, I
long time ago.
remember. Vor is the
Yeah.
name, and I really do want to
Yep.
try it. Like I've been wanting to try it since it came out, but like I don't know. I'm afraid like stuff's gonna get lost in the mail, and like it's my own
And it is
personal problem.
expensive. It's not a cheap product, but yep.
Yeah, and I'm told like I will try it. I promise I'm gonna try it. I promise. So if they're
People are
watching,
probably waiting for you to do it.
yes, I know they are, and I get so many questions about it all the time, and I'm just like, oh, I need to order it online. So
Yep.
that's one of my things. And I had mentioned in a Facebook post the other day that that's why all my recipes are made with like easy to find ingredients, and it's not because like I want to make it easier for people. Like I do, but that's not my main drive. It's that like if I can't walk to the store and buy it and get it in my shopping cart and bring it home, like it doesn't exist to me for the most part. So that's
So
my
people need to be aware that you can make macarons out of things other than just chickpeas, which is
yes.
great. Does using beans and chickpeas and different types of legumes affect the taste?
Yeah, I taste wise, I don't taste any difference at all. And I haven't made like the entire spectrum of legume aquafaba, but chickpeas, cannellini beans. Someone recently made some with tofu water. So just the water that drained from their tofu, they whipped it up into a meringue and they made macarons with it. And so like,
That's interesting.
yeah, because soy is a legume, so it makes sense that the liquid from that would work. And they said there was no taste to it at all. I've used kidney beans, dark red kidney beans, and it gave like a really pretty mauve pink color to my meringue. It didn't show up in the macarons too much, but the meringue was pretty. And black beans as well. I've done that, and and it gives like a lavender tint to it. So
All
that's
right. So when coloring your macarons, are you using like an oil-based color? Like, what do you recommend? Does it affect how they come out?
yeah, no, you want to steer clear of oil at all costs. Even the smallest speck of oil in the meringue will cause it to deflate. So oil colors, which are made, mostly for chocolates and candies, you want to avoid those. I use gel colors. I personally use AmeriColor, and then the
Yep.
colors from Hobby Lobby. But Pro Gel is also really good, and they're vegan as well as Artisan Accents. So those are two really good
Awesome.
brands I see people using a lot. But like I said, they're not available in my local store, so I have
And
tried
what about
it.
flavoring your macarons? Like, how do you go about doing that? Are you using like
um,
vanilla bean or
you
extracts or?
You can. I generally advise people not to try flavoring their shells until they get really, really good at making macarons and getting consistent batches, just because the cookies themselves are so sensitive and so fickle.
Mm,
And going back to the oil thing that we were talking about, a lot of people have tried flavoring their shells with cinnamon, and it's full of oils, so it causes puddles and crackers.
all
Same
right.
with chocolate. Cocoa powder, because it doesn't have as much fat, you can add up to like 10 grams into the dry mix and it should be okay. But more than that, and again, flat. Um,
Right.
Lemon zest, orange zest, any flavoring oils, things like that, it's going to cause the same problems. But what a lot of folks do, and I've done a couple of times, is if you pulverize freeze dried fruit, so like freeze dried strawberries, freeze dried raspberries, anything like that. And it basically turns it into a flour. So just mix that in with your dry
Mm.
ingredients. It gives a really beautiful color to your macaron shells, as well as imparting the flavor to them. So it's kind of a twofer. Um,
Ah, that's a great little tip.
yeah.
And what do you advise is the best filling for macarons?
I don't think there is a best filling. I enjoy all of the fillings. I'm an equal opportunity filling filler. Buttercream is by far the most popular just because it's easy, and
Yep.
it is infinitely customizable. So you can add any kinds of flavors to it. You can do your cream cheese buttercream, chocolate buttercream, caramel, pina colada, like whatever you want to do, and fill your max with that, and it'll work. A lot of folks also like to use ganache, and ganache works extraordinarily well,
Mm,
especially if you're sensitive to sweets. Like, believe it or not, I don't like sweets a whole lot. So what I like to do is to fill them with a very dark chocolate ganache. So there's like almost no sweetness in the filling at all, and then the bitterness cuts through the sweetness of the cookie, because I mean
yep.
it's like 90% sugar.
Yep.
So yeah, if you fill it with like a dark chocolate ganache, if you want to use Kate Ott, she has an amazing recipe on her website 86eats.com for vegan goat cheese.
All right.
Yeah,
That
if
would be
you stick that in
gorgeous.
there and then you get the tang of that goat cheese with the sweetness of the
Mm.
macaron, and if you want to put like a fig in there, like that's it. Like that's
That
like the
sounds
epitome
awesome.
of deliciousness to me right there. So I mean, you can do anything with them: chocolate, buttercream,
Mm.
cheese. Um, I like to use cookie butter also. It's a great filling. Peanut butter. A lot of people like to do a ring of peanut butter on the cookie and then fill it with some
Mm.
jelly. So you get peanut butter and jelly max.
Oh, that's delicious. I would
Yeah.
absolutely eat like 20 of those.
I will
What do
say,
you think
oh, what was
is
that?
the number one cause of macarons failing?
Lack of patience. That's,
Right.
yeah. For a batch of my Italian macarons, from beginning, as in like I'm getting my ingredients out, to ending where that's where my cookies are filled and ready to go in the fridge to mature, it takes about 4 to 4.5 hours.
That's commitment.
So it's not like if you're making croissants and it takes 3 or 4 days of like one day you do 15 minutes of this and put it in the fridge, and the next day you do 15 minutes and put it in the fridge. Now this is like nonstop 4 hours of actual active macaron making time. So
Right.
if you don't have that time blocked out, or you don't have the patience to try to do every step exactly the way that it needs to be done, or if you have kids running around like me, I'm a stay-at-home mom, so my kids are constantly like, here, Mama, what are you doing? Can I taste it? Can I lick the spoon? Can I lick the, and then I'm like, and then I'll mess up my max because I'm not concentrating on it. So yeah, you've got to have the patience. You have to cut, a designated slot of time out in order to do it. And then you have to be really patient with yourself too, because 99.9% chances you're not gonna make good macarons on your first shot. You're just not.
No.
Yeah, no, that's how the cookie crumbles and melts and breaks and explodes.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. So
that's just
when
it.
you
You've got to do it, analyze it, see what happened, ask for help, what's the
yes,
troubleshooting, and try again. And it's going to be a process, and you need to go
right.
into it knowing that.
And for all the professional bakers and caterers that are watching this today, what do you recommend in regards for pricing for macarons? Like, is it a viable product to make and sell? Do you make money back from it, considering it takes you such a long time to make, and it's quite a risky product? What are your thoughts on that?
It's going to be different for everybody. For me, it's a lucrative business for me. I make, a few dollars doing it. I'm not rich by any means, but if I sell a batch of macarons at $3 a piece, and my batch makes 150 macarons, I mean, it's a good little bit of money for me to waste on failing another few batches of macarons. No, but I sell them for between $2 and $3.50 each, depending on what the filling is. But that's the cost of my ingredients that I've figured out exactly how much it costs in ingredients, in packaging. And then I have, down to the minute how long it takes me to make the macarons. So I'm paying myself an hourly wage, and I pay myself $10 an hour, which I'm going to bump that up to 15 because,
You
why
should.
not? So everybody, it's going to be different for everyone. But a piece of advice that I have is don't throw away your failures. I actually sell my macarons that don't come out perfectly, and there's a huge market for those. The people who they don't feel comfortable spending $3.50, on a tiny little cookie and 3 bites of deliciousness.
Yeah.
So if I sell the failed ones, which are still filled and they taste exactly the same way, they're just not beautiful, and I'll sell them for $1, $1.50 each, depending on the filling.
That's
I'm
a great
still
tip.
making money. I'm recouping my costs of making them. I'm still paying myself an hourly wage, and I can, break even, make a few cents over that. So in that sense, it's not a deep, dark pit of money loss for me.
Macaron hell.
Yeah, no, it is. It's so weird.
Okay, all right. So let's move on to talking about some of your other tips in other areas of baking. Now, because you're an expert with allergy-free food, let's talk about that. So let's start talking about tips and tricks that you recommend if you were diving into that world. What are some of the things that you learned first up?
Some of the first things that I learned. So you're breaking up a little bit. So.
Oh, yeah. Some of the first things that you learned. Oh, that's why, 'cause my microphone's down there. Going into baking allergy free.
Yes. The very first thing that I remember learning that that helped me a lot was it's much better to either develop a vegan recipe from the bottom up, or use a vegan recipe itself. If you try to go into vegan baking and just make a couple of swaps and call it good, you're probably not going to have a whole lot of success, because our ingredients, you might be able to say like, aquafaba is a great egg replacer in all of your baking. Just use 3 tablespoons per egg. And it doesn't work like that. It isn't a perfect swap. Aquafaba is not egg. Egg is not aquafaba. So, and the same goes with if you're replacing with cornstarch, if you're replacing with energy, if you're replacing with applesauce or mashed banana. none of those things is going to act the same way as whatever you're replacing it or whatever you're replacing. So that's the biggest tip I got right off is like go with a vegan recipe. Don't
Yeah.
try to get, a tiger to change his stripes because it's not going to work for you.
I think that's a really great piece of advice. Some of the things that come up in the group a lot are obviously egg replacers and sugar. So do you have any advice around egg replacers? And then we'll chat a little bit about sugar.
Okay, yeah. Aquafaba was my first egg replacer that I was experimenting with just because, it's low cost, it's easy to get access to, and I am a huge fan of hummus. So I was like, I get to like bake cakes and eat hummus. So
Yeah.
that was a great opportunity for me to experiment with my first egg replacer. And it works great when you're using a recipe that is using eggs for moisture. When your recipe is using the eggs to build steam inside of whatever you're cooking, because it's mostly water. So, it
Yep.
evaporates, it creates the little bubbles inside your cake, whatever you're using. The problem there, though, is it doesn't set when it cooks the same way that eggs do. So, if you're trying to make
Mm.
something like a souffle or an angel food cake or something that really relies
Oh,
on,
God.
I
Angel food cake is like the death of me.
yeah, no, and if you've tried it with aquafaba and you're like, oh man,
Yeah.
I bet I can whip this up and bake
Yep.
it, it's going to be glorious. No, it's
Yep.
not, because
No, it's
um,
like a disaster.
at over about 200 degrees Fahrenheit or like 100 degrees Celsius, like aquafaba melts, like if you
Right.
heat it up. So if you're trying to use it as structure in whatever you're cooking, it's going to fail miserably and you're going to be sad. So that's not going to work for you. Some things that come into play that will help with that is if you're using like a protein isolate, because then you get the structure of the protein in whatever you're cooking. So something like potato protein,
Yep.
soy protein, things like that. You might have a little bit more luck with those, especially in combination with aquafaba, because it's going to give you the moisture and then your proteins are going to, hold tight those little bubbles that you've created without them bursting and giving you a puddle of something that could have been angel food cake. Um,
Yeah, I think that's what's happened to me when I was trying to do an angel food cake based on aquafaba. It just didn't work. I tried a few different recipes and I just couldn't quite get it.
yeah.
So it's on the back burner. Okay, great. So let's talk a little bit about sugar. So what are your top sugar replacements for like cakes, cupcakes, and muffins?
The biggest tip that I have there is to experiment. There, it's the same thing with the egg replacers. Different sugar replacers are going to work different ways in your recipes depending on what the sugar is doing in the recipe. So sometimes, like in the case of macarons, or anything meringue related, the sugar is what's creating the structure in there for you. So the sugar, it's crystallizing in whatever you make with the aquafaba, and it holds its shape
Mm.
once it cools. The same way like sugar candy, it holds its shape in a little lollipop for you. It's creating a web in whatever you're cooking, and as long as you can keep that from deflating or turning into a puddle or melting more, that's going to hold the structure for you. So the only replacement that I have found for that, for sugar in that sense, is actually isomalt, which is made
Oh
from.
yeah, right.
So here's a big reveal. I haven't announced on my blog or anywhere else, so this is
Woohoo!
exclusive for you guys. Isomalt, everybody uses it to make big sugar sculptures, like my narwhal back here. His tusk is made with it, or this that I made for the cake
Oh
for one of
yes, I
the
remember
bake
that.
off. Notice it's gone cloudy because we don't have a really viable shellac replacement yet for vegan baking, but I'm working on that
Mm.
too.
Oh
Um,
great.
so the isomalt that everybody knows and loves and does all of that stuff with, it solidifies like sugar does after you melt it. So I have found it actually works fantastically in meringues. Um,
Right.
Yeah. So I've made meringue kisses and all kinds of fun shapes and stuff with just isomalt instead of sugar. And I'm in the process of working on macarons with it. I haven't nailed it yet because I've tried to, do the powdered sugar replacements with xylitol and
Yeah.
maltitol and stevia and all of those things, and either they taste really disgusting or my cookies like pencil eraser. That has come out a lot of times, especially with the xylitol. So a lot
Yeah.
of tweaks are needed there. But in terms of meringue, I highly recommend using isomalt and doing an Italian meringue, melting down your isomalt, pouring it into the whipping meringue, and it works fantastically. So that's going to cut your calories in half.
Wow.
Doesn't cause sugar spikes in most people with diabetes, and it doesn't leave any kind of weird taste in your mouth, and it's 40% as sweet as sugar. So for people like me who don't like things to be overly sweet, it's a great replacement in that sense as well. But
Wow. So does it work in other recipes like cakes and muffins and cupcakes, biscuits,
um,
or is it just macarons?
I haven't tried it there because I need a higher speed food processor in order to turn it into like granulated isomalt or
Right.
powdered isomalt, because the crystals that you buy, they're not ready to use. You have to melt it down first, and then once it's melted, you can use it for whatever. So
Yep.
I tried putting a disc of isomalt that I had melted into my food processor, and I broke the blade. So
Oh,
don't do that. Um, but in terms of like Italian meringues, it it works fabulously. And for like a marshmallow fluff type frosting, it'll work really great for that as well. And it toasts
mm.
lovely if you take a blowtorch to it. So
Oh,
um,
gorgeous.
in terms of cakes and muffins and stuff, though, the best replacer that I have found is granulated stevia that is cut with
Yep.
maltodextrin. So what that is, a maltodextrin is a polysaccharide, which is a fancy word for a starch that gives the stevia its body, like the bulk of the actual sugar.
Yep.
Stevia itself is super concentrated, super powerful. We had a post in the group about this. I believe it was Kalisha that I hope I said her name right.
Yes.
She was
Yep.
asking about
It's about it
stevia,
a lot.
and if you get pure stevia, you only need like a teaspoon and a half for a huge batch
Yep.
because it is so sweet and
Yep.
it's really bitter. So I buy the granulated that is cut with the maltodextrin, so it measures cup for cup. And
Yep.
I've had a lot of success in pretty much all of my cake recipes using that in place of sugar. So that's my
That's a great
that's
tip.
my top recommendation for that.
Yeah, I agree with that. When I was doing sugar-free, gluten-free cakes when I was catering, stevia was always my go-to for sugar replacement. I started using bananas and applesauce, but I found in cakes and loaves and stuff like that, it made it really dense and gooey. But stevia didn't have that effect.
Yeah, so that's my top recommendation. I have been experimenting a lot with the brand Ideal, which is it's xylitol mixed with maltodextrin again, and Splenda. The only thing is like Splenda is kind of in terms of like people don't like to eat it because it's like chemically,
Yep.
um,
Doesn't it have
but
aspartame in it?
what was that?
Aspartame?
No, it's not aspartame. It's sucralose.
Oh, right.
But another problem there is it tastes like sugar because it's made from sugar. And in the
Right.
United States, if it's made from sugar, chances are that sugar wasn't vegan and it was processed with bone char.
Yes.
So until I figure out if Ideal is actually from vegan sugar to begin with, I can't really claim that it is. Um, so I don't know there, but in other countries, if you want to make it, because apparently they don't make it anymore, it's half xylitol and half sucralose. So if you can make your own mix with it, and the thing about it is, I found it doesn't have any kind of weird taste at all, and it sweetens like the same level as sugar does.
Wow. Okay.
So if they're
Great.
willing to like make their own mix and experiment and whatnot, I like that's been my favorite for. I've gotten into keto in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
So that's been my favorite for like the cheesecake that we made, and I made a Yorkshire curd tart a few days after that, and you couldn't taste that there was no actual sugar in it.
Wow,
So
that's amazing.
that's the one I'm playing with right now. But until I can figure out if it's like actually vegan, 100%, from the beginning, then I'm not going to throw it up as a recommendation unless you make your own. So
Yep. Okay. Oh, that's a really incredible tip that a lot of people are going to really love. All right, so let's move on. I'm just seeing if we've got any questions come through. Not yet. So let's have a chat about your group. What's happening there, and how did that come about?
that came about because I really love the All Things Macarons group that's on Facebook for the Eggy Macs. I mean, they have some vegan bakers in there too, so it's literally all things macarons, not just egg macs.
Oh, right.
But the vegan bakers in there are such a small percentage. And then I was seeing in the Aquafaba group that there were a lot of people who had questions and needed help troubleshooting, and just a lot of macaron fails were being posted in there. And then I was getting messages from tons of people asking, for help with my recipe or help with a French macaron recipe, which I'm more than happy to do, even though I don't really do French macs. But some of the physics and the science and stuff is still the same, so I can help a little bit. But then there are people in the Aquafaba group, like Deepa Jha. I hope I said her name right.
Oh,
She
yep.
makes French macs. And so I was like, why don't I make a group and stick a few people in here who know how to make the macarons and how to have success, and then invite all the people who are not having success so we can help them. And then those people become
Yep.
successful, and then they can help the newer people. And then it's just this flourishing, beautiful, wonderful thing. And that's exactly what it's turned out to be. So
Yeah, it's a fantastic group. I just see so many people posting failures and success, and everyone sharing their total experience, and then everyone else is coming on and helping them troubleshoot and become successful at it. Because a lot of people in the group also seem to be very obsessed with macarons. So they're in the best place possible, which is awesome.
yeah.
And let's talk about your blog a little bit. So how did that come about? How long has it been around for? And what are you planning in the future?
Yeah. So my blog is Cooking on Caffeine. That's probably backwards on everybody's screen, but either way, Cooking on Caffeine. It started out how long ago? Like 7, 8 years ago now. And it started just because I loved cooking and I love eating. Like food is that's my life. So
I can relate, yes.
yeah. So, what I wanted to do in the beginning was I just wanted to try recipes from the internet and review them myself. Um, and so I was trying all kinds of like exotic meals from, foreign countries, and then some like down home, like Southern cooking in the United States. And I would just rate the recipe and let everybody know like how it went for me.
Yeah.
But it was like in its infancy, it was a really terrible blog. It was like in the old days, like I had just jumped from MySpace and I went to Blogger, and I was just like this hideous mess of whatever, and I couldn't figure out how to make it better. But I realize now that it didn't get better because that's not what I was supposed to do. And when I started making things for my daughters to be able to eat, writing my own recipes, creating things from the ground up, and then sharing back with all of the people who had helped me in all of the groups that I was in, I realized that taking pictures of my notebook and messaging people with it wasn't sufficient. So I started like that's the most terrible way to share recipes with people. Like, hi, like this is my recipe for macarons on one page, but let me type up 52 more pages of instructions for you that you're probably gonna lose. So, and I was like, I need to like type all this up, put how-to pictures with it, and help other not just moms of kids who have allergies, but help other people who have allergies themselves, or other people who
Yep.
are on restricted diets for whatever reason. So people who are vegan for health reasons, people who are vegan, for the animals, people who are vegan to help save our planet. whatever reason is that they're not eating eggs, not eating milk, that they're avoiding wheat, whatever the reason is, I want my blog to be a place where they can go and find help to include things in their diet that not only help them adhere to whatever diet they're on, but help them to love it.
Mm.
So that's what the purpose of it is.
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of people in my Facebook group that are mothers with kids who have allergies. Excuse me. Sorry, something stuck
You need a cup of coffee.
in my throat. You do. So your blog is definitely a go-to for recipes for people and parents who are looking for allergy-free recipes with really great feedback, tips and tricks, and photos that give a strong understanding of how to execute recipes successfully,
Yes.
which is amazing. Many people are always talking about blog, sharing the recipes, and talking about all the advice that you've given them, which is just glorious. Such a great thing for this vegan baking movement that's happening right now.
Yes.
And the next bit of exciting news is, I don't even know if you talked about this, but you're talking about doing a recipe book.
Yes.
Chat about that, shall we?
Yes. So I am right now working on a book specifically for vegan macarons. I
Awesome.
have not found a book that just covers vegan macs. There are lots of recipe books out there that have a recipe for them in the book. But like I said, my recipe for the Italian macs, it's on my site, my blog. It's 52 pages long if you want to print it. But that's not enough. So I am writing what I hope will be like the definitive guide, dictionary, thesaurus, encyclopedia for vegan macarons, including, equipments and all the different ingredients that you can use and different fillings that you can make. And I'm even looking at including some macaron templates for people who want to do things like make heart macarons or Christmas trees or whatever.
What a great idea.
So they can print those out and then they can make them and look as professional as anybody that they see on Instagram. So
amazing. So what's the timeline with this happening? And I understand you're going to release a mini free book on your website. Yes. When can people get their hands on that and what's going to be in it? And tell us.
Yes. So I don't want to rush, writing the whole book because I want it to be, like I said, the definitive, like everything that you need to know about vegan macs, like in the whole world. So I don't want to like rush to try and get it out, in a few weeks because I'm going to be cutting a lot of corners if I do that. But what I'm going to do in the meantime is take the recipe that I have on my blog and then write it in like a friendly book version, ebook, or if they want to print it out and put it in a binder or whatever, that'll be a lot easier to follow and with more beautiful pictures. And then I'm thinking of including my new recipe that I'm working on, which I'm calling it the American version, which is
great.
It's a quicker, easier recipe for people who don't like to think a lot and are a little bit lazier.
That sounds perfect. Does it take 5 minutes to cook as well? Like, can I whip it in 5 minutes?
Well, with the new recipe, I do things like I'm not reducing the aquafaba first. I'm mixing everything in my mixer rather than by hand. There's almost no resting time, and I can go wham, bam, thank you, ma'am, from beginning to end in less than an hour.
Wow.
So, yeah.
And
so
what's the result of the end product? Is it much different?
No,
what's the result?
It's pretty much the same, except I get more consistent results, and the macarons are more full as soon as they come out of the oven. So they don't need as much maturation time. And if people have seen the rainbow macarons that I did for Pride Month, those were done with the new American method.
Wow. So, okay. That's really exciting.
Very exciting. So I'm thinking with the preview ebook that I'm going to do, it's going to be free. And then I might include that recipe in it for people who do pre-order for, my gigantic encyclopedia that I'm going to be hopefully finishing up by the time the year ends is what I'm hoping for.
Oh, that's really, really exciting. I'm sure a lot of people people will be drooling to get their hands on that as soon as it comes out, and including the book. So make sure you go over to Megan's website, Cooking on Caffeine. Obviously, sign up to our newsletter so you can stay informed as to when that's coming out.
Yes.
And also get more people to join Megan's Facebook group, help it grow, and help more people get involved in egg-free baking for macarons. It's really, really exciting. Looks like we'll have to do a bake club with macarons too. You guys are keen? I don't know. Let's do a consensus, see how everybody feels about it first. Maybe if your new recipe comes out and it's only an hour, a lot more people may be keen
Yes.
in giving it a try.
I'm excited about it.
Yeah, absolutely. You are the queen of macarons, so this is such a perfect fit, and it's really exciting. And absolutely get it out by the end of the year so we can get our hands on it. We'll have to do another interview and go through the book and talk about it, because I'm sure you'll have so much more information and new tips and tricks to share with the audience. So before we go, do you have any other tips and tricks for vegan baking that you would love to share with the audience?
I guess just a reiteration of what I said. Jump in and be a part of a community that is already doing it, and try to give as well as take. And that's the best path to success, really, in anything that you do in life. Don't make yourself an island. Don't try to do it all on your own. Realize that there are other people who are also doing it, and you need them as much as they need you.
Yes, that's such a really nice piece of advice and wisdom to end on for this show. And I'm sure everyone who's watching this now and later through YouTube, if you want to find Meggan, just jump on my website. I have a page dedicated to this episode, so you have her blog, her Facebook group, and obviously where you can sign up to her newsletter so you can stay informed and become educated on how to make the best macarons in the world, but also how to get a great insight into allergy-free vegan baking, which is a really big movement that's happening right now with parents and people in general. So definitely, absolutely go check it out. And Meggan is always in the Facebook group, so you can find her there as well. If you have some questions, if you want to reach out to her, she is extremely generous with her time. She probably talks to us more than her own children.
Probably. I love you guys.
Oh, we love you too. We're very grateful and thankful for all your contributions, and it's just been amazing to see you in the last couple of months just sprouting this amazing influencer for vegan and allergy-free baking. We love you.
Love you guys too.
So if you have any more questions for Meggan as well after you watch this episode through the Facebook group, you can just pop them down below and she will get back to you. And we will see you in a month for the next episode of Bake Like a Vegan Pro.
Thank you so
Thanks,
much,
everybody. We'll see you in the group. Thanks, Meggan.
Thank you.